now, and the tees will be paid off right now. So basically, let me lay out the situation for you, because there's been a lot of conversations about rumors and DeMar DeRozan and going to the Heat, and maybe he could be that second place if you miss out on Kevin Durant. And these conversations have been had, and what's going to happen, and the Kings are looking to be aggressive to get into the first round. So I did some digging, like I said, well, literally as I'm picking weeds, but I did some digging. I got a call back yesterday morning as I'm getting ready to, do my dad duty and make sure HOA stays off my back. So as I'm getting ready, I get a call from somebody very, very close in the Kings organization. Okay, and I have these notes that I broke down from the call, and I'm going to share them with you right now. The first note that I have is probably the least exciting note, that they are still being patient just in general, but looking at options. And I said this a couple days ago, just as far as the idea of the Kings running it back might not be sexy. Let me rephrase that. It is not sexy at all. But if I'm Scott Perry, I look at this like a college coach that just joins a new school. These aren't my recruits. Let's see what they can do, and I'm going to assess the situation. Now, we know that Scott Perry, he'll blow some stuff up, right? He will overhaul things, but that doesn't mean it has to happen immediately. Doesn't mean it has to happen right now, and it might not happen this upcoming season, or it might not happen this offseason. Let me say it like that. So the first thing is that, typical statements being said here. The Kings are still being patient, but looking at options. Now let's get to some of the meat and potatoes. No, as of 8:04 a.m., or rather, as of 9 a.m., when I got that call, right, between 7 and 9, I'll check my call log after this, between 7 and 9 a.m. yesterday on Juneteenth, some people had it off, we did as well, no DeMar DeRozan convo has happened with the Miami Heat. Let me say that again. No DeMar DeRozan convo has happened with the Miami Heat. And I obviously can't tell you where I got this information, but it's someone very close to the situation that would know. Very close to the situation that would know. No, now let me say it like this. No DeMar DeRozan conversation has happened with the Heat yet. But convos have happened with the Miami Heat. No DeMar DeRozan convo has happened with the Heat as of yesterday around 9 a.m., but convos have happened with the Miami Heat. I can 100% tell you that much. And the last thing I have from these notes, the Kings, as far as getting into the first round, I believe that was Jake Fisher that kind of broke all of that down. They'd like to get into the first round, and they want to be opportunistic, but this person said if they were a betting man, there's going to be more moves once free agency pops up. They're not trying to sell the farm to get into the first round, which tells me that they want to get into the first round, but as of right now, they don't love someone enough to sell the farm. There's not someone that they believe in as of right now, or as of between 7 and 9. And let me double check. Let me make sure the cameras don't catch it here. This call that I received, I'm just covering it. It was at 8:50. Okay. It was at 8:50. As of 8:50, they'd like to get into the first round. They want to be opportunistic, but they are more so looking at free agency. This person said if they were a betting man or a betting person, they would say that a lot of these moves are going to be made after the draft. But if something pops up, if price tags drop on something, if Ace Bailey keeps turning down workout opportunities and keeps destroying his draft value, then yes, they will be opportunistic. This person, if they were a betting man, they would more so have a conversation about free agency and expect the Kings to do something there. So as of 8:50, still being patient, looking at options. There have been conversations with the Miami Heat, but DeMar DeRozan hasn't come up. DeMar DeRozan hasn't come up, but convos have happened, and they like to get into the first round. And as far as that report that they are telling agents that they assume they will be in the first round, apparently that did not come up. So as far as, oh yeah, we're for sure going to be in the first round, that report that came out from Jake Fisher, as far as I know, and like I said, this stuff is all fluid. Remember that word from 2020? This stuff is all fluid, but as far as 8:50 and what I was told yesterday from a source extremely close within the organization, or extremely close to the organization, I should say, they're happy to get into the first round, but it is not something that is their number one priority. I'll put it to you like that. As far as the DeMar DeRozan thing, and again, everything is subject to change, right? He could get traded earlier today. He could get traded earlier, or later today, honestly. And then, Alan, you said this. That was at 8:50, okay? And, maybe things are being, cross-contaminated or whatever you want to call it. But as of 8:50, and like I said, this is a very, very close situation here. That's who I got this information from at 8:50. That's not to say things might not change, but conversations have been had. DeMar DeRozan specifically, though, has not come up, which leads us to say, okay, well, who has? And we had a conversation with Chris Persianen of Clutch Points earlier this week, who put out a Malik Monk article about Malik Monk and the Raptors, who the Raptors have been interested in Malik Monk. And this Desmond Bane thing and that trade, you start looking at this value a little bit differently all over, whether that's Malik Monk, whether that's Zach LaVine. Does Zach LaVine look any better after the Bane trade? Oh, it's 2 years. Could he be a guy? Now he's more expensive than DeMar DeRozan, but could he be a backup plan, a contingency plan to Kevin Durant? It's 2 years and it's expensive, but could he be a guy that people think, hey, he could take us over the top, right? Could certain teams convince themselves of that? We'll have to see. You look at the teams that have been mentioned, the Rockets, the Heat, every team that's been brought up as far as the Kevin Durant conversation is concerned. Where does that land when it comes to DeMar DeRozan, Zach LaVine, and people are just looking at the Kings as a poo-poo platter. Just what do you want? Who are you interested in? You want the most expensive? You want the least expensive? You want the oldest? You want the youngest? Well, what do you want? And as far as Scott Perry is concerned, it's his job to do due diligence. I went back and forth with the drive guys, and I was texting Jay, and it feels like I'm the loser here in this conversation, because the first thing I thought when they're sitting there saying Allen, or not Allen, but they're saying there's nobody on the Kings that could go for the Desmond Bane package. I said, come on, guys. I texted Jay immediately. Jay, my guy, man. I text Jay, DeMontis Sabonis can't go for that package? If you're Scott Perry, you're not listening to something? He said, I don't know, man. I don't know, Allen. I don't know if he could go for it. So I bring it up to Clutch Points when we had him on. I don't know, Allen. It seems like a lot for DeMontis Sabonis. So we had the round table. Chris Watkins, Brendan Nunez, Frankie Cardicelli. They said, Allen, I think you're wrong. I don't think that DeMontis Sabonis would go for that type of package because of how much he's getting paid and honestly how he's viewed as far as how you could use him. They went on to say, and it was Chris Watkins, if I'm not mistaken, who will be on 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., They went on to say that if Keegan has a good season, Keegan is actually in line next season to get a Desmond Bane type package. And Keegan ain't going to be making what Desmond Bane making. Now you also could say that the Magic overpaid for Desmond Bane, but they've been looking for a three-point shooter the same way the Giants have been looking for a 30 home run in a season guy since Barry retired. So it also depends on what that need is. I think the Pacers need to upgrade from Miles Turner. I don't think that upgrade is Domantas Sabonis. Then you have the Zubac's of the world having great seasons, the Şengün's. So I had to say, Uncle, maybe they're right. Maybe there is nobody on the Kings that can farm you that type of package. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't listen to what could be out there. So the Kings are in a situation right now where when Scott Perry had that introductory press conference, he said, my phone's been ringing incessantly. It might be doing that again. And if I'm Scott Perry, I'm listening to everything. Somebody could convince themselves of a Zach LaVine. It's 2 years, it's expensive, but if he's giving you 24 points per game for the next couple seasons on that type of efficiency, Brendan Nunez keeps saying, why aren't we talking about Zach LaVine's efficiency? He had a crazy season. It didn't look the way we thought because we were looking for a point guard as he went down to San Antonio in the Riverwalk. But Zach LaVine was basically the same guy on the Kings as he was on the Bulls. The team just didn't make a ton of sense. And that's what they're trying to figure out now. But maybe somebody could talk themselves into it. Maybe the Timberwolves could say, all right, Ant, yeah, they're two shooting guards, but can we do enough between the two of them? And maybe Rob Dillingham does take a step, or he's at least playable next season. What does that look like if Kevin Durant doesn't want to come here? As the Suns move into phase 2, mind you, and we'll get into that in a second here. But the Suns move into phase 2 with KD, which means, sorry, KD, we got to send you somewhere. Or not. Maybe he stays. So you are evaluating everything. And, that is a larger, and by the way, go check out what we did with Chris Persanian from Clutch Points. I talked to him on Wednesday. I tried to get the team out of him. Of course, he didn't break. He told me that he knows for a fact that a team has already called about Domantas Sabonis. And the only thing I was able to get out of him, I said, is it a Western Conference or Eastern Conference team? And he said it was a Western Conference team. Now, he did go on to say that everybody's calling about everybody right now. But he told me, and I said it, we did it right here on the airwaves, 10 a.m., 2 p.m. every single day, that a team has already called about Domantas Sabonis. I don't know what that offer would look like. And it was a Western Conference team. So now everybody's guessing, is it the Lakers? Is it who could it be? Is it the Blazers? Oh my goodness. I don't know if Kings could take. I think DeAndre Ayton has a little bad PR. I don't think he is. I think he's better than how people talk about him. But could it be a Blazers type of team? Who is it? Could it be a Timberwolves type of team? I don't think you can play Gobert and Sabonis together, but who is that team? So we had some fun trying to guess who it was, but things are happening. So it's one of those situations where I wouldn't be surprised if the whole thing gets overhauled this upcoming season, which Scott Perry has done before, or I wouldn't be surprised if they run it back, go get Tyus Jones, go get PJ Washington for, the DeMar DeRozan, in some type of 3-team deal, or we joke on the Allen Styles show, PJ Washington, go get your Tyus Jones or your PJ Washington, John Collins, and go from there. And that is what I think will happen. If I were a betting man, I would say Tyus Jones and some version of John Collins, who is now being connected to the Lakers, by the way. Some version of John Collins, PJ Washington, and we haven't talked about a Sacramento Kings centric show doesn't start until Cam Johnson is brought up. It used to be Kyle Kuzma, but now it's Cam Johnson. It used to be Jeremy Grant as well. But go get that enter name of tier 2 point guard, enter name of tier 1.5, 4 or wing, and they rock and roll from there. That's what I think is most likely to happen. But calls are being had. If you're just now joining, I was picking weeds, got a call from somebody very close to the Kings organization. They're still preaching patience, which we've heard before, but they are willing to take some swings. You know what I would say? And if you're just now joining us, look, I love my baseball comparisons. Where the Kings are right now, it's not a 2-0 count. It's definitely not a 3-0 count. It's not a 3-1 count. The Kings are in a 2-1. Scott Perry is at the plate in a 2-1 count right now, which means he's being fairly aggressive, but he's not swinging out of his shoes for no reason, because you do got a strike on you. So it's 2-1. You feel like it's going to be a fastball, but even if that's a fastball on the outer half, just let it go. But if that's a fastball in your happy zone, let's get to work. As the coaches used to tell me, if it's your pitch, don't be late. Do not be late. I'd rather you hook that ball. I was a lefty. I'd rather you hook that ball to the right of first base if it's what you're looking for. But don't be late. You don't have to swing if it's not you. But 2-1 count, if it's in your happy zone, don't be late. That's where Scott Perry is with the Kings right now. That's how I am assessing the situation based on my call at 8:50 yesterday morning, right before I started to pick some weeds. That's what it is. 916-339-1140 if you want to be a part of the conversation. As far as DeMar DeRozan is concerned, I think that the Kings are in a good spot. I'm still trying to figure out. I think I'm probably guilty of overvaluing DeMar DeRozan, but I saw DeMar DeRozan have a lot of moments, and I don't want the stench of this past season to overtake the fact that DeMar DeRozan as a talent could still help a ton of teams. And that salary is very, very palatable in my opinion. It's enough to bring off a bench if you're a contender. It's enough to make him a starter as well. Second, third option. He's got that. And most importantly, he could be your closer. Now, you have to have the requisite pieces around him to put that in the right situation, right? As far as you need somebody that can defend, because we know that is not his forte, to put it nicely. You're going to need guys that can stretch the floor, because even though he shot it better from three-point range, that is not his forte. So there are situations where that can happen. That's why when I talk about the Rockets right now, they're already missing enough shooting. And Fred VanVleet, obviously, they're trying to rework. I don't even know what, that just went away. But Fred VanVleet, pretty soon here, they're going to figure out whether or not they want to pay. They know they don't want to pay Fred VanVleet $40+ million. But will they be able to rework that? You got Fred VanVleet. I just saw a video of Amen Thompson. He's going to get better as far as shooting the basketball, but I don't know if that's going to happen next season. So, and then you get Şengün as well, who I think is a slightly better, it's just a smoother shooter than Domantas Sabonis, but he's not somebody I would say can stretch the floor like that. So DeMar DeRozan's tough. I think they need a closer. And we spoke with Chris Biederman of the Sacramento Bee a couple months ago. He was all over this as far as could it be a Rockets team? I think that fit is a bit wonky just for stretching the floor purposes, but they could talk themselves into it. Everybody that we say for Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan, it's not that they're interchangeable. It's just what's your flavor? Like I said, the poo-poo platter. The Timberwolves could sit there. Look, Ant taking up threes for the whole state of Minnesota. So the Timberwolves could say, look, Ant's still our guy. He's our closer, but sometimes we can, get a little bit of breathing room, and it's a DeMar DeRozan night. He could give you 25 on any given night. So the Timberwolves could talk themselves into it. So I'm Scott Perry. The phone is ringing incessantly, just like it was before they decided to go with Doug Christie. And maybe I don't do anything if I don't like it. Maybe I just work around the fringes. Or maybe I look at that 2-1 count. I get that fastball. For me, it was middle in. Lefties like it a little down. Drop that bat head. and send it out to Sutter Health Park. Right there where Nick Kurtz did. I can't hit it that far. But right there where Nick Kurtz did. So it's an exciting time. I think this is probably, I don't know about the season. The season had a lot of drama. But as far as excitement, I saw somebody text in, Alan, this is the least excited I've been going into a Kings offseason. Well, last offseason, they go get DeMar DeRozan, which whether you thought it would work or not, I would say it was fairly exciting. This one is exciting to me because at least it's different. Look, the West is going to be a juggernaut. Somebody said, how many teams are actively tanking in the West? And after the Jazz, I don't know that there's one. After the Jazz, how many teams are actively tanking? It's going to be a battle every single night. But right now, as of 8:23, we do have a little bit of hope because we don't know what they're going to do. Now, like I said, they could work around the fringes. They could just go get Tyus Jones and run it back. I don't know that I see that happening. Really depends on what DeMar DeRozan wants, because I do think there's a world where, let me say this, where the organization would be okay with you'd have your guy, nothing like us. We love videos like that. Don't we now out in Sacramento? Seems like the organization does. They got their guy, Zach LaVine, who they've been very much in love with for 4 years now. And you go get Tyus Jones. Hey, DeMar DeRozan's running on every podcast saying, when we had Lonzo, the sky was the limit between Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan. They were just in Southern California working out with Doug Christie was there. Mason Jones was there. People must just love Mason Jones. He just pops up places. So anything is possible right now. They could run it back. But I would say this, they run it back. I think that if they did and just went Tyus Jones and ran it back, I think that behind closed doors, and this is not source information, this is just my thought, behind closed doors, Scott Perry would be saying, we're assessing the situation. But that run it back, I don't know that it would last all of this season. I think it would just be buying time to see if other suitors, based on the Kevin Durant thing, become a part of the conversation. And obviously, DeMar DeRozan would be much more palatable for an in-season trade than a Zach LaVine. But the sky is the limit right now. Or what did Michael Jordan say? The roof is the ceiling. So a lot of things can happen. That's the call that I had with somebody really close to the situation, and we'll see what happens next. But the bottom line is, as of 8:50, or whenever that, I believe that conversation was had the night prior, to be completely transparent. So that conversation happens. I get word of that conversation at 8:50. So as of essentially, 2 nights ago, no DeMar DeRozan conversation has been had with the Heat. None. But conversations have been had. It all depends on what happens with Kevin Durant. And Sam Amick says the Suns are entering phase 2 with Kevin Durant. We got that for you when we return. Alan Stiles filling in for Carmichael Dave and Jason Ross, Sactown Sports.